सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। ॐ समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवती अष्टादशाध्यायिनी अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। So say we have to take a flight from Los Angeles to Bombay. And so what do I do from Bakersfield? First of all, I drive to LAX, and there's no flight to Bombay from LAX. So what I do, I take a domestic flight, United, to JFK, New York, and then from there I take KLM. It goes to Amsterdam, then Amsterdam to Bombay. And then when I get off the plane, my home is Ahmedabad or Pune, so then I have to take a local train, and then I go to my train station, then I take a taxi to go to my house. So I have so many legs I have to cover. But say if I'm in the leg from New York to Amsterdam, do I say that is my ultimate destination? No. That is just one of the legs, from Bakersfield to LA, New York, all those different, all the way till I reach my home by taxi. So I am taking maybe 8 or 10 legs, and neither one of them can be counted as the ultimate or the total. We just say it is a part of the journey. So similarly, our soul has gone through so many legs, so many lifetimes, and we consider only this lifetime as this is only real, what I see right now. That is like saying only my leg from New York to Amsterdam is real, all the others are I don't know about. As long as I'm not on those legs, no, it's not like that. So similarly, our soul has to go through several different life journeys, legs, until it reaches its final destination, which is our home. And what is our home? That's why we say Hari Om, which means Hari Home. Home is where my true abode is, where the Lord resides, and that is my final destination, merger. But each one of those legs needs effort. Like say from Bakersfield to LA, I have to drive, then I have to take a flight, and then I have to take another flight, then a local train, then a taxi. So effort is required in each leg till you reach your final destination. And the Bhagavad Gita is our manual, is like the travel agent who makes all my reservations. So Bhagwan Sri Krishna has made all our reservations and has given us the legs in the Bhagavad Gita. So each leg, when I'm traveling, each lifetime, what do I have to do? Dharma. I have to do the right actions, and kama and artha. I have to earn and I have to enjoy, but with dharma. But my life should be lived with a dharma, with right action. And that is my journey in this particular leg. That is my effort. But my ultimate goal is moksha, or enlightenment, or oneness with the divine. So Bhagavad Gita tells us both how to practice dharma in this lifetime, how to live your life, which Bhagavan Sri Krishna has been telling us through Arjuna. And then he is also telling us that our ultimate goal is enlightenment, or the moksha, or oneness with the truth. And so the 13th chapter has both, has how to live our life with dharma, which we will be coming to, and also has the highest goal of moksha very well, most clearly explained in the 13th chapter, more than in, though Bhagavan has covered this topic in several other chapters, but in the 13th chapter, this particular aspect of moksha, or what is that ultimate goal, is covered most beautifully by the Lord, and we will be coming to that in a couple of weeks. So far, we have covered 3 shlokas of the 13th chapter. The first one starts with Arjuna's question: what is Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Purush, Prakriti, and Jnanam and Nyayam? So these are the 6 topics. Jnatum Ichchami, Bhagwan, I wish to know that. So Bhagwan Sri Krishna starts with saying, Idam Shariram. This Shariram is the Kshetram. This Shariram, and he could have been pointing to his body or to Arjuna's body, because they are both this. Whether my body is this body, and everybody else's are also this. So whatever is this is not my ultimate nature. That is not who I am. So I say this world, this computer, this table, then this body, this mind, this intellect, these vasanas, all of them I am not. And what is the knower of all of them? That he says in the 3rd shloka. He says, this kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. In all fields, I am the ultimate knower. The consciousness within us is the same as consciousness everywhere. That is, so if somebody asks, where is Tattva Masi in the Bhagavad Gita, it is in this shloka. That I, this consciousness, and the total consciousness are one. Even though I am different from God, different from this world, as far as my BMI is concerned, Jeev, Jagata, and Ishvara. There are 3, but the consciousness supporting all are one. So I am that consciousness is the teaching of this 3rd shloka. That's why the topic Tattva Masi is covered in this particular shloka, that the consciousness in you is the consciousness in all, and your true nature is consciousness, as is the substratum of this whole universe. The whole Jagat is supported by consciousness, and Ishvara, also the creator or sustainer of this universe, also the essential matter is consciousness, what we call as Brahman. So that was explained in the first 3 shlokas. That is what we have covered so far. Today, Bhagwan Sri Krishna will tell us about Kshetram. What is it? This world. What is this world? That world includes also my body. I have to remember that. I am part of this world, but the world is and my body are one. So we'll start with shloka number 4. So chapter 13, shloka number 4. Tat kshetram yaccha yadrikcha
Takshetram yaccha yadakva
yad vikari yatascha yat
yadvikari yatascha yata
sacha yo yat prabhavascha
sacha yo yat prabhavascha
tat samasena me shrunu. Okay. Tat kshetram yaccha yadrikcha yad vikari yatascha yat sacha yo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me shrunu. So Bhagavan Shri Krishna says that tat samasena me shrunu. Samasena means in brief. Tat, that, me, from me, shrunu, listen from me. What am I going to tell you in brief, and why am I telling you in brief? Because Bhagavan says there is a war we have to fight. So I cannot spend too much time talking about the field, because you know we we have, the time is short. And so he says, I will tell you in brief what this entire world is. So tat kshetram. So what is that kshetram, that field? Yacha, yahacha means what it is. Then yadrikcha, what is its nature. Then yat vikari. Yat vikari means what are, vikara means modification. So it is, kshetram is continuously modified, continuously changing. So what are its modifications? I will tell you. Yataha, yataha means from where it has come. So from where has the world come? What is its nature? What exactly is the world? And what are its modifications, the various modifications of this, what we call as the world. And Sachaya. So some people interpret Sa as talking about Kshetra, but other commentators say Saha represents Brahman, the consciousness, God. Sacha, and that also I will tell. And Yat Prabhavascha, and how does this consciousness, God, create this world, and what is the origin of this world? I will tell you how the world came. Tat samasena me shrunu. So listen from me in brief all these things about the world. So in this particular shloka, both are mentioned. The first line talks about kshetra, and the second line talks about kshetragnya. That is this field, and who is the knower of the field? That is Brahman or consciousness. Now, what is the nature of this world? So that he will talk in more detail in the next shloka, but it is basically 5 elements which are modified, and origin is Bhagwan himself, but through vasanas. So again, that will be talked in more detail in the next shloka. And this is continuously being changed. We see the continuous world of change. Like we were, little young, then we became teenagers, then young, youth, then middle age, and so on. And then ultimately life will end. And that we see everywhere, continuously changing. Even mountains are changing, rivers, trees, everything is changing. So it is changing. And what Bhagwan is doing is, first he is going to separate it, that kshetra and kshetragnya, that there are two, but ultimately the knowledge will be that from one kshetragnya, from one consciousness, everything has emerged. So there is only one. It is not dvayam, even though we think it is dvaitam, me and God are somewhere else. But Vedanta talks about Advaitam, and the Bhagavad Gita also talks that there are no two. There is only one consciousness, and whatever you see as the Kshetram is an appearance upon the consciousness, does not have independent reality of its own. You and I, we do not have independent reality. We are dependent on that consciousness. And it is the consciousness or Bhagwan or Brahman or God alone that is expressing as this whole universe, including you and me. So we are not separate from that. There is only one. And that is the teaching of all the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, all of the texts talk about the oneness. And not only that, not only I am one with God, with that origin, but I am one with the entire creation. So you and I are one with the plants, with the birds, with the animals, with the criminal, with the sadhu. Everything is one appearing as many. So that we have to realize that there is only one consciousness appearing as many. So what Bhagwan is doing, separating first as two, and then he will combine them into one. So he is giving us samasa, he is giving us in brief, but throughout the Bhagavad Gita, especially in the 14th, 17th, 18th, and 16th chapters, he will give us in detail how to live our life and how to deal with this world. But in that kshetram, the kshetrajna, the knower, is asanga, it is unattached. So this consciousness is not attached to what is going on. But if I understand that my nature is consciousness, then I develop a healthy detachment from this world where I then don't depend on the world to give me happiness. So that is called detachment. And in this world, there is matter and there is space. So matter is the five elements: air, space, fire, water, earth. And all of us are made of that. It is the same five elements which is there in everybody, even though we look so different. I look different from an animal or a bird or a fish, and my qualities may be different. Fish can live in water. You and I cannot live in water. We need air and earth. And the earthworm lives in the ground, but the five elements are the same. And the space between these elements within us is the same. In fact, they say that we are 99.999% space, and the amount of matter that is in each individual, if you remove the space, we can just fit in within a peanut. You know, the peanut that has two sections? That is how much material we have in us. That's what scientists say. It's hard to believe. But if we remove all the space, all the matter we have can fit into a two peanuts, like the two sections. But why do we look solid? Because the matter is held together by space. And what is this matter? It is not only the five elements, but further smaller, we say, okay, it is my body, my heart, my liver, my lungs, my legs. But then smaller than that, we are molecules. And they used to say, molecules make up whole creation. Then they said, no, it's atoms. Okay, atom is the ultimate. Then they said, no, not even atom. It is smaller: protons, neutrons, electrons. Then even smaller than that, quarks and subatomic particles. So the thing is, it keeps getting subtler and subtler and smaller till ultimately you reach where? What is the source? And the source is the consciousness, what is called kshetrajna. So why we are saying this? Because we are all connected. Anything that happens to me happens to all. The Shveta Ashvatara Upanishad says it very beautifully. It says, if you break a leaf here, you cannot break a leaf without it affecting some distant star somewhere else, because we are all connected in that one consciousness which is connecting all of us. So we are whatever I do affects everybody else, and whatever everybody else does affects us. So, like we live in the San Joaquin Valley, and last couple of days there's been a lot of smoke. Where did the smoke come from? The fires and from the pollution in San Francisco and the Bay Area. So, even though some fire is burning somewhere and somebody is polluting, people in the valley suffer the consequences. So the point is that connection is the essential nature, that we are all connected with one another. I was reading in the newspaper that there was a trucker a few years back who released some oil on a long road to remove the dust, and it was a few miles long, but that oil had been mistakenly mixed with dioxin, which is a very, very poisonous material. Somehow it got mixed in. So now imagine that oil with the rain now from that road went into the streams, went into the fields, went into the water supply, and the lake or the where the water is stored. So how many people probably got cancer from it, how many people got diseases from it, how many plants got this dioxin, and then whoever ate it. So the point is that one incident by one trucker probably affected thousands of people because of somebody's carelessness. So the point is that this kshetram is to meant to show that we are all one, and that is the knowledge of all the scriptures. Whether you look at the Bible or you look at the Bhagavad Gita or the Buddha's teachings or the Jain teachings, the oneness of the entire creation is told. But the question is, why should I know about this? What is the need to know? You just tell us about Bhagwan, God, and we will reach. Why is the need to spend so much time talking about Kshetram? Because we have to deal with it. Even though my true nature is Brahman, but as an individual with this body, mind, and intellect, I have to deal with this world. And they say that how to deal with the world is taught in the Bhagavad Gita, and then also how to transcend the world, how to go beyond the world to my ultimate goal of moksha. So that's why I need to know about the world, its nature, its modifications, and then later on in this chapter, Bhagwan will tell us how to go beyond it. So we'll do shloka number 5. ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतम्
ऋषिर्विबहुधा गीतम्
छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक्
छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक्
ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव
ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव
हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः
हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चैतिः
ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतम् छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः. So throughout the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna makes it very clear that this is not only my knowledge, it is not only I who is speaking to you, but he quotes all the authorities. For thousands of years, the Sanatan Dharma is said to be beginningless. We don't know when this knowledge started, but how was it transferred? And who are the authorities? Bhagwan is always, just as somebody is writing a paper in the New England Journal of Medicine, he will say, well, people in John Hopkins say this, and people in Harvard say this, or Stanford say this. He will quote various medical authorities. Or somebody writing an engineering paper will quote MIT, Caltech, and such, universities. So here Bhagwan says that this knowledge has been passed on by various authorities. So Rishi Bhi, so this is the third case, Rishi Bhi, by the Rishis. How have they done it? Bahudha Geetam, different kinds of songs have been sung by them. And Chando Bhi, Chandaha are the Vedic mantras. So they are called chandas. So Vividai Prithaka, various kind of Vedic mantras. As we know, there are four Vedas which have thousands of mantras. So those Vedas, the Vedic mantras, and Brahma Sutra Pada. Pada again means the shlokas of the Brahma Sutras. The Brahma Sutras were composed by Bhagwan Ved Vyasji, which again have the highest knowledge, fairly advanced text. You can say a PhD text. So that text also contains Cha Eva also. So these are the three sources, and it's not something that you just have to believe. Okay, some rishi sitting in some forest, in some cave, just suddenly came up with this idea. And so I have to have a blind belief. No, there is no blind belief in the Bhagavad Gita in Hinduism. In the Vedanta, at least, there is no blind belief. Hetu madbhir vinishchitai. Hetu madbhir means by clear explanation. Vinishchitai, clearly determined by hetu madbir, by the cause and effect, how it happened, what was the origin, everything has been very scientifically explained. So Bhagavan says that these three different sources have very clearly given this knowledge, which I am now giving to you, to Arjuna, and to the rest of us. So what is Rishi? Rishi is Rishati Janati iti Rishi. So one who knows the truth of this is called Rishi, like Vishwamitra Rishi, Vasishta Rishi, these great rishis who composed the various mantras in our text. So here they say there are three sources of knowledge in anything in this world. There are three sources: Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhuti. So Shruti means by authorities, Yukti means by logic, and Anubhuti means by our experience, by my experience. So so we say today is Sunday. You say, how do you know it is Sunday? Say suddenly you came from somewhere and your time is changed and all. So what you do, you look at your watch or your cell phone, and it says today is Sunday, the 26th. So that is the authority. Or you get a newspaper. Very few people read newspaper. I'm one of those who does. So from a newspaper or from a phone or from a laptop somewhere, you will be told it is Sunday. So that is called Shruti. That an authority has told you. Then Yukti, by logic. How do you say by logic? Yesterday was Saturday and my son or my grandson went to play soccer. It was AYSO. So I know yesterday was Saturday. And tomorrow is Monday because I have to go to work and my week starts. So by logic, that yesterday was Saturday, tomorrow is Monday, so today should be Sunday. So that is logic. And third is Anubhuti, that I went out for a drive or for a walk and there were no cars on the road. That means that's my own experience that it must be a weekend. And then I walked by the church and the church parking lot was full. So it must be Sunday. So by Shruti, by authority, by logic, and by my understanding, I understand today is Sunday. So here the three sources, Rishi, Chandas of the Vedas, and the Brahma Sutras represent the three sources of knowledge. So Chandobhi, the Chandas of the Vedas are the Shruti, is the highest knowledge which the rishis, which the great seers of the Upanishads heard in their meditation. So when they heard this in their meditation from the totality, then what they spoke became the Vedas, and they were then memorized by their students and then passed on from teacher to student to teacher to student until finally Ved Vyasji combined all those Upanishads, all the Vedas into four. Otherwise, it was scattered, this knowledge. Because different Mahatmas, different scholars, different rishis gave it at different times. But it was combined into the four Vedas, so that is the Shruti, that is the authority. Then Yukti or logic is given in the Brahma Sutras. If you read the Brahma Sutras, very logically this knowledge has been explained to us, and all this division of knower, known, and also in the Bhagavad Gita, if you see, very logically everything is explained. Who is the seeker, who is the knower, what is known, the kshetra, kshetragnyam, purusha, prakriti, everything is clearly explained. So that becomes the logic. And what is the anubhuti? Anubhuti is of the rishis, because the rishis themselves applied this knowledge in their life, and then they saw how it benefited them. So that's why all the three, the the Vedas represent the authority, Shruti, the Brahma Sutras represent the logic, and the Bhagavad Gita, and the rishis, their teachings represent their own experience, anubhuti, which we can also apply. So that's how they are quoted. And what they say, that this body is a hut, and that is the teaching. Even Buddha in his teaching says it very clearly, that this body is a hut. So I'm just talking about logic, how beautifully Buddha explains logically in his teachings. Of course, in Gita also, but he says this body is a hut and the roof is the mind, because the mind is higher than the body. But if you don't patch the roof, if you leave holes in it, what will happen? Water will come. When it rains, you will get wet and you will get miserable. So our mind is like that roof, which needs to be covered, needs to be patched, needs to be protected, and that we do through knowledge, through meditation. So if the right knowledge is there, then the mind is whole, complete. But otherwise, the mind gets fragmented. If we don't have knowledge, then I get confused, and then I have problems. Then I have sorrows, because the mind is the one that is needs to be protected, and that protects the body. So we are the body is a misunderstanding. We are the consciousness occupying this body. There's a very beautiful example of thinking I am this body. Has anybody heard of this Winchester House in San Jose? Anybody who lives in San Jose? It's a very beautiful example of how an individual thinks I am this body. So what happened was, there was this Mr. Winchester who made the Winchester rifles, and that was sold in millions. This was in the late 19th century. Everybody owned rifles for hunting, for war, and to conquer the West, to defeat, to kill everybody. So millions of people were killed by Winchester rifles. That was the main weapon at that time. Now, of course, we have all other lot more guns, but that's a different story. So when Winchester expired, his wife Sarah Winchester believed in all this occult, like these mediums and all these, astrologers and all. So she went to one astrologer, and that astrologer must have read her palm or did some tarot cards and some, things, and told her that, look, because your husband's rifles killed so many people, the spirits and ghosts are going to be haunting you forever. So she said, what should I do? And she was, of course, a millionaire. She had so much money from all the sale of rifles. And every month she used to get thousands of dollars in sales and royalties and all. Very, very rich. So what should I do? He says, you need to escape. She was living in Boston. Go as far as you can. So she said, how far? I can go to California. So from Boston, she came to San Jose, California. That was as far as she could go. And second thing, he said that you have to keep building, buy a house and keep building. As long as you keep building the house, the you won't die. You will live forever, and the spirits will not bother you. You have to keep building. So this lady's her millions of dollars she spent in building this Winchester house. And it had to be continuously built. So for 38 years, day and night, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, these carpenters and builders were working in shifts. And there was no architect. So whatever room she wanted, she would build. She said, now build a living room. Now put a fireplace. Now build a hallway. And where does the hallway lead? Nowhere. Just it closes. Just close the hallway. Then build another room that has no windows. She was herself planning the house because the house had to be kept on building. There were 161 rooms. There are 64 fireplaces. And one hallway actually leads, it's on the very high floor. If you walk out, you will fall out because it is leads to an empty. So she kept building the house thinking, I am this body. And she would purposely make confusing turns so that the spirits may get confused and they may not be able to find me. And every night she used to sleep in a different room so that to hide from the spirits. And despite all that, after 38 years in 1922, she passed away. You know, you can't cheat death. But she had this idea that I am this house, and as long as the house is being built, I will keep on living. And her whole remaining, even though she had so much money, was spent in hiding from these spirits. So the point is that that is how we also identify. That's why in the 12th chapter, Bhagavan says, my devotee is aniketaha. He does not have a house. What it means is we have such a strong identification that this house is me, that if anything happens to the house, it's happening to me. And the house not only represents the physical house, but everything that goes in it, the walls and the furniture and the money and the jewelry and the car. So we get so associated with our physical things that we forget that there is some higher purpose in life. So that's what the idea is, that I am not this hut. That's what Buddha is telling you. Your body is the hut, but the occupant of the hut is the ego, and beyond the ego it is the self or the consciousness. So I am not the hut, but I am the owner of the hut. So I, the consciousness, am owner of this body, which is my hut, and this house, and everything is belongs to that consciousness. So that is the essence of this particular shloka that Bhagavan Sri Krishna is quoting various authorities who have given this knowledge through logic, through the highest teaching, and through their experience. We'll do verse number 6. Now he's actually telling us about the parts of this kshetram. Mahabhutanyahangaraha
Mahabhutanyahangaraha
buddhiravyaktameva cha
buddhiravyaktameva cha
indriyani dashaikancha
indriyani dashaikam cha
pancachendriya gocharaha.
pancachendriya gocharaha.
Together. Mahabhutanyahangaraha buddhiravyaktameva cha indriyani dashaikan cha pancachendriya gocharaha. So what are the components of this? So he has given us 24 components of this entire kshetram, this entire world that we are experiencing, not only the gross world, but the subtle and the causal world also. So gross world is what we see, subtle world is the mind and intellect, and causal world are the vasanas. So the subtle world is mind, intellect, mana, buddhi, chit, ahankar, memory and ego, and then the vasana. So mahabhutas. Mahabhutas are the tanmatras, or the unmanifest five elements. Before the five elements get grossified, those of you who have done Tattva Bodha, just recently we are about to finish, talks about how these ungrossified Mahapantan matras become these grossified five elements: air, space, fire, water, earth. So Mahabhuta are the unmanifest or ungrossified five elements which become these five elements. Ahankara is the ego, this sense of I and mine and me. Buddhi is the intellect, that the discriminating faculty which decides what I should do, what I should not do. Avyaktam. Avyaktam is unmanifest. So what they say that you and I, all of us, are manifestation of our vasanas. Whatever habits we have, it is because of our vasanas, our tendencies, which we have carried through many lifetimes. And those vasanas express as desire, and then thought, then desire, thought, and then action. So whatever actions I'm doing is because of my vasanas, which is the avyaktam. And the unmanifest becomes manifest as karmas. And then if I do selfish karmas, egocentric, that strengthens my vasanas. If I do unselfish actions dedicated to the Lord, then that reduces my vasanas. And then there is individual vasana, that is yours and mine. And then there is the total vasana called mool prakriti, because of from where this whole universe came. That's why it is called the causal body. It is the cause of birth. And as long as I have vasanas, I will keep taking birth, birth after birth. So the goal of life is to reduce vasanas through doing unselfish karmas, through devotion to the Lord, and through right knowledge. So avyaktam. And indriyani dasha. So there are 10 indriyas. So karma indriyas and jnana indriyas. So the organs of knowledge and the organs of action. So there are 5 organs of knowledge: eyes, ears, tongue, skin, and nose, the smell. So hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and seeing. So those 5 sense organs and the 5 organs of action are hand, feet, speech, procreative organ, and excretory organ. So 5 organs of senses, 5 organs of action: hands, feet, speech, procreation, and excretion. So indriyani dasha. So 10 organs, ekam, and ekam is the mind. So what happens is that the 5 sense organs collect the knowledge, give it to the mind, and then the mind presents it to the intellect. It happens very quickly. Even like I see something, a person coming, immediately I say, oh, this is a friend. So then immediately the information goes to the intellect. Intellect remembers this is my friend, so I go out and greet him. Or if somebody is coming with a gun, then immediately I say there is danger, so I close the door. So this happens very fast. So the sense organs give the information to the mind, the intellect decides, and then the action is taken. So this all happens very rapidly. Just as I put my hand in fire, immediately I pulls my hand out. So that is a reflex. There, maybe the intellect doesn't even come into it. Immediately the mind takes its own action. So dasa indriya cha, and then pancha cha indriya gocharaha. So 5 sense objects. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Shabda is the sound, Sparsha is the touch, Rupa is the vision, Rasa is the taste, and Gandha is the smell. So whatever I see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, the external objects are the 5 sense objects. So that makes 24. So 5 Mahabhutas, then 6 is Ahankar, 7 is Buddhi, 8th is Avyaktam, the vasanas. Then Dasha Indriya, that makes 18. And then 1 mind, and then 5 sense objects. So 19 and 5, 24. So these 24 make the entire world. But it is not separate, it is all connected. So mind, energy, and matter are all continuous. So that's why Einstein said E equals mc squared, that mass and energy are connected, and mind is also energy. So everything is all connected. So it's not that matter and energy and I are separate. But how does this creation happen? So they tell us very beautifully that the sattva, rajas, and tamas, these 3 aspects of Prakriti, were in stable, in a stable state. And then the disturbance was created. They say there was a ray of light that went into this total mool prakriti, which was lying still, and this one ray of light went and created disturbance, and the whole universe came, which scientists talk as the Big Bang, that there was this Big Bang occurred, but they don't know where the energy from for the Big Bang came. Yeah, okay, there was a Big Bang several billion years ago, but where did the energy for the Big Bang come to create? They said the whole world was in a small pear-like structure, and then with the Big Bang, it exploded into all these planets and all these stars, which is billions. So the energy that they are not able to explain, which is explained by our Vedas, that there was a silence, there was stillness, and then disturbance happened, and that's how this world came. And what is meditation is to know what is knower and what is known. So I, the consciousness, am the knower, I am the drishta, and everything else is seen. That's why in Drishya Vivek Shankaracharya ji tells us about the seer and the seen, the knower and the known. And what is the Vistara? How does it manifest? So it's beautifully explained in Diwali. In Diwali, we make sweets, right? So what are the sweets? You say, oh, there's laddu and there is barfi and there, all this. But what are actually only three? Sugar, ghee, and grain, right? The tino ka vistar. It is basically only three. You can make different shapes, kalakand and this and all those names, and but and the milk. But basically only three or four ingredients, which are then modified. You put color and you put different shape and you put different grain and different amount of. So that is what the vistara. So similarly, these five elements itself became the whole universe. So that is called Vistara. So it is explained not only in brief but also in detail by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. We'll do the last shloka today, number 7. Ichha dvesha sukham dukkham
Ichha dvesha sukham dukkham
sanghataschetana dhritihi
sangatascetana dhrutihi
etat kshetram samasena
etat kshetram samasena
सविकारमुदाहृतम्
savikaramudahrutam
इच्छाद्वेषसुखं दुःखं सङ्घातश्चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम्. So now, after having put these 24 together, then what happens? So he says, Bhagavan says, Ichha, Dvesha. Means Ichha, Dvesha, likes and dislikes, what we call as Raga, Dvesha. And then because of Raga, Dvesha, I get Sukham, Dukkham. If I get what I want, I get Sukham. If I don't get what I want, I get Dukkham. Or what I get initially gives me Sukham, later on gives me Dukkham. So Ichha, Dvesha, Sukham, Dukkham. And Sanghata. Sanghata means the collection of all these 24 together create all this. Something creates joy, something creates sorrow, something I want, something I don't want. And then Chetana. Chetana is not Chetana as the consciousness. It's not Chit, but it is what they call as reflected consciousness. We'll talk about that, what is called as Chidabhasa. And then dhriti. Dhriti means fortitude, that you need fortitude to succeed, to overcome this, uh, all these sorrows and all these problems of the world, and to overcome this. That's why they say this world is like a samsara. It is huge, it is very deep and very difficult to cross over. So that's what. So he says that is what is the chet, dhriti. And etat kshetram, and this kshetram samasena, and briefly and savikaram, and with its modifications, udahritam, has been said by me. So briefly, I have told you what is the kshetram and what are its consequences. That's the best word. What is the consequences of this kshetram that we can uh, tell you? So he says one is likes and dislikes, and our whole life is determined by likes and dislikes. And when these likes are unchecked, then it creates sorrow. So, like to just to give an example, people like to, in this country, they consume a lot of beef. Now, how is beef? These ranchers, if you see, especially in Brazil, millions and millions of acres. Brazil is the lungs of this universe, the Amazon forest of this earth, and all the oxygen is created and the carbon dioxide is withdrawn. So there is millions and millions of acres in the Amazon basin. But what happened was these ranchers from the West, from US and Canada and all, went there and they bought millions of acres of land. And every year they just destroy the forest. 3.6 million acres of forest are destroyed every year. They will destroy the forest and then plant, then put these cattle there, and they just burn the forest, and there is so much pollution created. And then after a few years the grass finishes, so they don't care. They have 3.6 times 5, 15 million acres they have destroyed. That's fine. After 5 years they move to another area, and 5 more years. And so that's how slowly we are destroying. Why? Because of our likes and dislikes. So that's why they say that every every everything that we consume, we have to see that is it creating more problems, is it creating more pollution. Not only consume, but every action that we do, is it creating good vibrations or bad vibrations? Is it harming others? Is it helping others? Is it selfish? It is unselfish. So that we have to very clearly determine. And then what will happen is we'll go beyond joy and sorrow. Why do I get sorrow? Because I have this selfish desire that I must get it. And when I don't get it, but if I say it is all Bhagwan's grace, whatever I have, I'm thankful, then I will have less joy and sorrow. Or if you, at the path of knowledge, you say, I am the consciousness, and in my presence, this whole world is functioning, then again, your detachment from objects will happen. So either you detach through bhakti, that, oh God, you are doing everything, I am just an instrument, or you say, I am the consciousness, which is what the 13th chapter will tell us, that we are all that, and this world is happening. Whatever is happening, it will happen, but my goal is to become one with that consciousness. And the sanghata and the total togetherness of that is what this world is. And chetana is called as reflected consciousness. It is not chetana as the life, but the life principle that when reflected in the mind and intellect creates life. So there is this consciousness which actually itself does not do anything, but in the presence of consciousness, our mind and intellect get illumined, and that's how life is created. And we have given this example many times, like there is sunlight. Sunlight by itself, sun doesn't say, oh, I am busy illumining the world. The sun's nature is to illumine. It is of the nature of illumination. But when the sunlight falls on a mirror, the mirror reflects light into the room, while a rock will not express the sunlight. So similarly, our mind and intellect is like that mirror. When the consciousness falls upon it, it gets life, just as the mirror gets light when the sunlight falls on it. But this gross body of mine is like the rock. It has no ability to reflect. But when the mind and intellect get illumined by this consciousness, then I get life, just as the mirror gets light when it's illumined by the sun. And that is how I am able to function. That is called Chidabhas. reflection of consciousness. And Dhriti, we mentioned, is the ability, is one of the qualities. If you want to proceed in anything, if you want to become a doctor, how many years of hard work and sleep? You want to become an engineer, you want to become a physicist, a programmer, accountant, pharmacist. All of those require years of study, and then also afterwards to be successful in my field, whether it's engineering, medicine, law. I have to put years of effort. So that is called dhriti, persistence, fortitude. So same way in the spiritual path, to succeed, I need dhriti, because people say 6 months I have been reading Bhagavad Gita, nothing happened, or I attended these classes, or 2-3 महीने से आ रहा हूँ कुछ नहीं. It's not going to happen that soon. We need fortitude, you need determination. That's what even it says very clearly. Bhagavan says that you need yatatma dridha nishchaya. In the 12th chapter, he says it should be dridha nishchaya and put in right effort. Then only you will succeed. So that's what Bhagavan says. That kshetra, I have told you in brief, and also its modifications, ichha, dvesha, sukham, dukkham. These are all the, what you call, consequences of action. And also, as I said, in the subsequent chapters, Bhagavan will tell us how to work in this world with sattva, rajas, and tamas. That will be covered in more detail. So here, basically, Bhagavan finishes his description of kshetra, and the next topic is jnanam and neyam. So jnanam, we think of jnanam as knowledge, but jnanam in the 13th chapter is interpreted as values. What are the values I should practice to make myself ready for this knowledge? To get this knowledge, I have to practice certain values. So that will be covered in detail in the next two classes. And then we will talk about the highest knowledge of what is that to be known, what is the nature of God or Brahman. That will be covered in the next few classes. Anybody has any questions, comments, anything you would like to add?
Why has he not discussed Prakritim and Purusham as of yet?
He will do it later on.
Oh, okay.
What he did not follow Arjuna's order. He did first Kshetram, Kshetrajnam, then he will do Jnanam and Neyam, and then he will do Prakriti Purusha at the end. But he has addressed the 6 topics in this chapter, but in different order than what Arjuna asked. He thought that first you have to know what is Kshetra and Kshetrajnam, then what is Jnanam and what is to be known, and then at the end, Prakriti, and what does Prakriti do and what does Purusha do. So that is all addressed in this third chapter.
Okay.
All the 6 questions are answered, but in a different order than what Arjuna asked.
Yeah.
What he thought, what Bhagavan thinks is how we should go. So it is how, not how he asked, but how we should study. But thank you. That's a very good question. Thank you.
And briefly, in the 3rd shloka, he has mentioned about oneness, that see me as this pure consciousness in everything, basically. But it's very briefly touched in that 3rd shloka.
Yes, but the entire 14th shloka onward, he will talk about me. He will talk about that I in a lot of detail. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. These 5 shlokas, he will talk in much detail. And then when he talks about Purusha, again he will talk about who I am. So yeah, and this.
Okay.
And then how all this world came together, Kshetra and Kshetrajnam, all is covered in a lot of detail in subsequent.
So one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Ichha, dvesha, sukham, dukkham. Are we talking at the kshetra level, at individual level, or in totality?
At the individual level. Okay. Even at the totality, because the ichha and dvesha can be of yours or mine, or could be of the country, like I said, the ranchers in Brazil, where they are just, so that is lot of people getting together, their desire, selfish desire, is hurting the whole planet. So Ichha and Dvesham can be of the individual or can be of a particular country, like when one country invades another country, like when we invaded Iraq, or when we see all these wars between the different countries. So that can be Ichha or Dvesham. Likes and dislikes can be of an individual, can be of a community, like like Arabs and Israelis, whether because they are Muslims and Jews. So it is religious, based on religious divisions, or it can be nation, or it can be, different. It could be even planets. Suppose tomorrow there is some some people coming from another planet to attack us. Generally, they say that these people from other planets are beneficial, they are good, but there could be interplanetary war also, or we may want to go capture some other planet. You know how humans are. They always want to capture something else. So then there may be a war between Earth and some other planet. So in the future, we don't know. So, but that's what it is. So it can be individual, a community, or a state, or a country, or the world.
And I want to thank you for that Tattva Bodha book reference, because I've been able to understand a lot of this
Yes.
descriptions much more clearly. Thank
Right.
you to both of you, and of course Sharad Bhakta being
Sharad
the
Bhakta, yeah, he's doing a very good job.
very, very good job. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, how these the tan matras, how they, the chart that has been made by Gurudev, Puja Gurudev, nice.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions and comments.
Thank you. I just know that everything is seen or felt are all objects, and it is all called idam. This is the kshetra. So the world of objects, everything we see, it is all the kshetra.
Anything
It's the
conscious.
personal and the whole world. So whatever is seen, felt, known, it's all the kshetra.
Right. And the knower is somebody else. Right. Girish Bhai, you have something? You're unmuted.
Raman Maharishi ji said, Aham and Idam. It
Yeah.
can be just divided in two.
Right. Raman Maharishi ji said the whole universe is Aham and Idam. And Aham is the consciousness. Aham.
Aham, the subject.
Not the subject, not the ego. And Idam is everything else known.
I think it really helps going back and forth with the Tattva Bodha, what we just covered, how it's like Ishvara and the individual, the Jiva, they are the same at the consciousness level.
Right.
That's what we just covered on here as well. So I think it's great to go back and forth.
Yes. Yeah. The idea is that not because ek book khatam ho gayi, I forget about it.
Right.
The knowledge of
Correct.
that text or previous chapters, what we have studied in Bhagavad Gita, all that is connected, and that's what
Correct.
we are trying to do in
Yes.
these connect different texts and also previous chapters. And one should keep on
Exactly.
reading. Yes.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
what I try to do is when I'm learning a new sloka here, I also try and see what I have learned within the Bhagavad Gita before.
Yes.
What chapter it is, it is narrated again, So because he comes back and forth with the ideas as well, throughout Gita. He just drops one idea, but then he will catch it up again three chapters later again.
Right.
So it really helps because we, of course, as soon as we are done, we get into our daily life and then we forget all this. So it really helps.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's why ongoing study of the Bhagavad Gita, keep reading the shlokas, keep reading the chapters. This Gurudev's commentary, if you have, just start from chapter 1 and keep on reading. They say read at least 2 shlokas a day. If you read 2 shlokas a day with the commentary, with the meaning, in 1 year you will have read the entire Bhagavad Gita. So just before you go to bed at night, read 2 shlokas with the meaning, and that is the best way. If you can read more, that's even better.
Thank you so much for giving me this golden opportunity to me today, which is a real golden day of my life today also, and to live how to live a real life through the values of Gita, which you are explaining in a beautiful way by giving a live examples. Of course, I am on a very, very primary stage, so it will still take me a time to
Yes.
understand and to everything to digest. But I'm sure with your this explanation and all, I will definitely try to digest and really apply in my life. So thank you, Anilji and even Lataji,
Thank
to
you.
enroll me in this Swadhyay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. No, the next few shlokas will talk about the values. What are the values to be practiced and how
Mhm.
one should live the life. And then also the what is the goal of life will be covering in detail. And as I said, if you can try to get this the 18 volume set of the Bhagavad Gita from
Sure.
Chinmaya Mission, and
Mm.
just start reading, and then if you have any questions you can call me or you can text me. I'll be happy to answer, or we can bring it up in the class. It doesn't even have to be of this shlokas, it can be of the past, anything you
Oh,
have read,
wow.
and we'll be
Thank
happy to discuss. So
Sure.
if you can cover any by yours. So swadhyay means self study, so self study is very important. We can discuss here, but it's only 1 hour a week, but then the remaining hours we should study on our own. Then only
Thank
this
you.
knowledge will become firm, will become.
True.
But thank you so much for joining. It's nice to have you all. It's very good. Om na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kuto yam agnihi tameva bhantamanubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati आरति श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की दिव्य रूप मूर्ति करुणा की आरति सद्गुरु की चरणों में उनके शांति समाए शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए पाप ताप संताप हरण की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की सिद्ध बाड़ी की तपोभूमि में नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे भक्त हृदय आनंद श्रोत्र की आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु की आरती सद्गुरु। बोलिए श्री कृष्ण चंद्र भगवान की जय, श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावा करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। Thank you, everybody. Hari Om.